Hello and welcome back to part 3 of my video series on creating my Blackstone Griddle cabinet. In this video I'm going to show how I did the Texas star with the inset bottle caps, as well as the concrete countertop using rapid set mortar mix. For starters, here you see me outlining the star shape. I first created a model on my computer to make sure I had the proper dimensions to fit within the size of the countertop I wanted, as well as being able to fit a good amount of bottle caps inside of it. So on my computer, which I do not show in this video, I have a model that has the outline of the star, as well as the bottle caps inlaid. That way I could visualize it without having to build it first. To make that model I used Fusion 360, and I basically just lined it all out in a 2D plane, and then I extruded it vertically to see how it looked in kind of pseudo real life. So during this clip you see me going back and forth from the drawing to the piece of wood, and that's me going to my computer to measure the model. So now you see me applying Scotch tape to the inside of the verticals on the mold. This is so that the epoxy doesn't stick to the wood. I read online and they said that the epoxy shouldn't stick to melamine, which is the wood I'm using. But I wasn't too sure about these trim pieces that I had that were just painted. So to be extra careful, I went ahead and applied Scotch tape to the inside of the trim pieces. There you can see I've got the full star formed up and attached. And all I did was use a brad nailer to nail in the form pieces to hold them in tight. Here you can see that I am taping off each of the intersections of the form pieces. There was cracks there, and so I just decided to put some Scotch tape over the cracks to make sure that the epoxy doesn't leak through. Now you can see that I'm applying the silicone caulk. I used black to be able to make sure that I could see where it was filling in at. Now I'm going to actually pour the resin. So I ended up mixing about twice as much as I needed. But basically what I was going for is a 1/2 inch thick piece of epoxy from the base of the wood up 1/2 inch. So it's about 1/4 inch over the bottle caps themselves. And you can see my design there using all shiner bottle caps because again, this is a Texas star. After mixing for about 2 minutes like the directions say, I went ahead and poured in slowly, measuring with the stick the depth, and then I went ahead and beat the thing to get the bubbles to rise, and I used a torch to get the bubbles to pop. Now you can see me preparing the actual tabletop form. Same tactic I used for the star, basically use the black caulk in the corner and fill in all the cracks. Here you can see I'm lining out where the star is going to go. I centered it, and then I went ahead and drew around it to make sure it didn't move. And then once I had it in place, I surrounded it with caulk to essentially glue it to the form temporarily until the concrete was poured over top of it. And note the star is upside down at this point, so the top of the star would be the top of the concrete because I'm doing a reverse pour. Here you can see I'm scratching off all the extra caulk. The reason why I'm doing that is just to clean up the edges. You don't really need to, and I didn't do it perfectly, so there's still some rough edges, but you can sand that down if it bothers you that much. It's going outside for me, so it doesn't bother me that much. You can see that gash I had when I was cutting the wood. I filled it in with the caulk, so it doesn't leave a mark in the concrete. And then here I'm just going around with a spatula and I'm scraping up all the excess around the star, just getting really all the big chunks out and in the corners and such. Alright, now it's time to pour the concrete. So I started by leveling out the form to make sure the form was level. That way when I pour the concrete, I can make it even with the top of the form and everything would sit flush. So I started by adding some water, and then I added some of that Quikrete color, followed up by the mortar mix. I mixed the mortar mix until it was soft and not chunky. And then I went ahead and added the flow control to the mix as well, and that gave it a soupy appearance and allowed me to pour it much easier. So I went ahead, the first batch I filled over the top of the entire bottom of the form, and then I'm mixing up a second batch, and that'll go right on top of the first batch. And I repeat this 3 times, doing 3 total batches. Now my camera dies before I can actually finish, but I get the third batch on and I start to float and level out the concrete. It didn't turn out great, it's very rough on the bottom, but with some shims, the final product looked just as good as if it turned out good underneath. Luckily I wasn't finishing the top, I was finishing the bottom, so the ugly part's hidden. If you guys enjoyed this video, go ahead and click the subscribe button below and look forward to my next video where I put the countertop on top of the frame, put the frame in place, and put the siding, the cedar siding, on the side of the frame. But until then, go ahead and hit the like button down below, hit the subscribe and the notification bell, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.